Welcome, everybody. And I think we're all here, so I think we'd like to call to order. And I think we'll start off by adopting the minutes from last time. I wasn't here for that, so I won't pass comment. But if somebody could move that those minutes be accepted. Ian? Christine, second. All right, so we're here to review 440 Island Highway West, and representatives are here. So if you gentlemen would like to do your presentation at this point.
Oh, one quick housekeeping thing. We just need to call the meeting to order.
Oh, I thought I did that. I'm sorry.
Did you do that? Sorry.
Yeah. Press the talk button, the little mouse with the lines in front of it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a secret. You've been censored. You can't turn yours on?
Oh, okay. It's on, yeah. 1 and 2. I'm in 2, and I press this thing here. I kind of okay.
It's funny because I don't have the 1 or the 2 lit. Mine is working. That's what I was thinking. Let's hope this one. So I can look at the screen. how it is.
Let's turn it off.
Yeah, shouldn't it? Yeah, it should. Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. Sarah, thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our development permit application to the advisory design panel, 79 unit condominium residents that we call Rowan. Panel members and counselor. I'm Garwin Wirch with Radcliffe Development Corporation, and behind me is Glenn Hill with DHK Architects and Chris Midgley with Kinship Design, Art and Ecology. I will be providing a brief overview of the site context and regulatory information, after which Glenn and Chris will showcase the building architecture and landscape architecture. On the screen are two of our past projects completed in Parksville, the most recent Lombardy Street, 34 unit mixed use commercial residential complex. The subject site is at 440 Island Highway, about 3.5 blocks west of Parksville's downtown. An aerial photo of the subject site and its boundaries is shown in red. Just to note, we have owned this vacant parcel for 17 years. The surroundings include several neighborhood elements, Mark's Nature Park, a small urban park with walking trails accessible from Finholm Street, the Meadows to the south, an 80-unit strata complex for seniors, and the Windham Travel Lodge, an 88 room hotel catering to both business and leisure travelers. The property is zoned comprehensive development under Parksville's CD 28 bylaw. This zone is intended to provide for a mix of tourist commercial and medium high density residential and care uses. There are 2 subzones on the parcel. Our current development application is in the subzone CD 28B. Maximum lot coverage 60%, floor area ratio 1.55, maximum building height 18 meters, and minimum setback of 6 meters for all property lines. The subject lies within 2 development permit areas, Area 3, commercial and mixed use, and Area 13, watercourse protection. Under the official community plan, DPA 3 aims to rejuvenate the region's appearance by encouraging distinctive architectural features and landscape designs. The goal is to create an attractive ambience for residents and visitors while ensuring compatibility with adjacent land uses. Additionally, its purpose is revitalization, form and character, energy and water conservation, and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. In meeting Area 3 Guidelines 7, our environmental sustainability design features are listed beneath the maps. Among the noteworthy design elements, a bioswale, a landscape plan with lush plantings and 0 lawn areas, individual water meters behind the city's master meter, solar photovoltaic system, high efficiency HVAC system and heat recovery ventilator, and level 2 EV ready charging outlets. This is an overlay of the preliminary 2-lot subdivision plan for the property. Our development permit application for the 79-unit condominium project pertains only to Lot B. Lot A and a newly dedicated linear park shown on the plan are not part of this DP application. The civil work required to complete the subdivision is covered under an approved servicing agreement. The agreement includes the expansion of Rowan Avenue from Finholm Street to Lot B.
Relocating the stormwater channel is shown on the plan and creating a pedestrian pathway with the linear park to connect Marks Nature Park to Highway 19A. Before I turn it over to Glenn, I just would like to emphasize how significant this site is, having unique characteristics, bordered by Marks Nature Park, a new creek-like water feature, mountain and ocean views from upper floor levels, and within walking distance of the downtown. I'm excited about our vision and goal to develop high-quality architecture, enhancing the existing environment and breathing new life into this neighborhood. The last comment I have is the recent pandemic has shown us how urban design influences our mental health and well-being. Research in what is termed restorative urbanism has demonstrated that thoughtfully designed homes and connections to nature can significantly improve people's mental health and well-being. And with this in mind, we incorporated design elements to promote resiliency where people can thrive and live well alongside each other. Thank you. Glenn?
Thank you, Carmen. It's a pleasure to present to design panel again. I always appreciate your comments and thoughtful consideration of projects whenever they come before you. I will skip to the next slide. Hopefully that, there we go. So I'll start off with our general site design. Garwin, I think, clearly covered the influencing factors that are driving the development permit through the policies within the city of Parksville. We have a property that has a primary access point to the southwest off of Roland Avenue. We have the linear park that is proposed with open creek and walkways to the north and west, and then the Marks Nature Park to the west also. The overall form and site design was heavily inspired by these factors, the context around us, and the opportunity to envelop roll that into the overall concept to create sight lines and visibility, and to be able to enjoy the context within which we're planning on having people live. I will note here that there is a variance required for the south property line. The image on the bottom left shows a 76-foot long ask for a reduction of the 6-meter setback in order to get cars down into a underground parkade. The variance is not for the entire property line, so just wanted to point that out before we get going. The 79-unit development has been inspired by mixing unit types. We want to promote community. We want to promote circulation within a double-loaded corridor building, and I'll get into some of that as we advance through the images. Getting out the sort of the semantics out of the way, you can see clearly that 80% of our parking stalls have been put below ground in a secure parking area, where we've also been able to provide storage for bicycles and lots of ample storage for units. And I will just note that 80% of the parking is ready for level 2 charging. So we're ready for the inevitable increase in electric vehicles as we've seen on our roads today. I'll also note that our garbage enclosure has been located in the underground as well. So again, trying to alleviate obstructions on the main site plan, on the main site plane where people will be moving and walking. So that takes care of our parking. The little note on the left illustrates the surface parking, convenience parking, and We provided an excess of accessible stalls close to the front door of the building. So talk about the form and character in its in certain aspects. We've created an entryway that is a predominant feature within the form and character of the building. You'll notice the building is split with a central light-filled lobby, and Garwin mentioned about the notion of community and harmony with inside and outside, and creating a healthy and vibrant place to live. We've glassed up the lobby area on each floor to promote that visual connection back to the park, back to the landscape that complements the architectural design, and to basically fill the building as much as we can with natural light and a sense of connection to your surroundings. You'll also notice on the left of the image at the top, there's a vertical stairwell that has been expressed as one of the articulation features. These are exit stairs, and we wanted to celebrate the sort of health and vitality of people, encouraging them to use staircases, staircases that are filled with light or complementary to kind of them being utilized as a vertical means of transportation, as opposed to constantly relying on elevators. So we want to, again, layer in as many opportunities to make even escape stairs a place that is usable. Our entry canopy has a deep overhang to create weather protection over the front door, giving people an opportunity to tuck away an umbrella before they get inside, or open it before they walk out into the elements. And you'll also notice that we have an accessible ramp to one side of that primary entryway. We've got bikes located close to the front door, and sort of an open and very clear wayfinding part of the forming character is, as you arrive, the top image is the arrival view as you come in, and the front entry is clearly identified with low landscape that provides lots of visibility across the site. Just moving around the building, this gives an opportunity for us to celebrate the adjacency that we have with the linear park and the creek that would be a part of that. You can see the scale of the building is kind of appropriate to our adjacency to Mark's Nature Park, and we're sort of excited to see on the bottom right-hand side how the landscape design comes to the building and sort of celebrates that connection where our building meets the ground, and where people will be enjoying a lifestyle outside on their patios, connected directly to the nature around them. The articulation of the building, as you can tell, is subtle. We purposely wanted to express and I quote Darwin, a quiet architecture. We had great success with our previous project at 100 Labarty Street, which has a lot of articulation. It's a very vibrant building. It's on the corner of a busy street, two busy streets. Here we wanted to continue to add to the fabric of the architecture within Parksville by not doing the same thing every time. We wanted to respond to the site as appropriately as we could, and as such we kept our materiality to sort of subtle tones, earth tones, which I'll talk to in a minute. But again, you can see the building is quiet with simple horizontal balconies that create overhangs for the units below. We have deep overhangs at the rooftop, so that the rooftop is also enjoyed by deep overhangs. There are cuts in the roof plane to further promote the introduction of natural light. So our aim was to find a very peaceful palette of materials that didn't distract from the how actually natural this site is for being relatively urban in its nature. So this mood board gives you a sense of what we were trying to achieve through the materiality. We've got, we basically let the natural aspects of Parksville's context inspire us. And as such, we've got wood tones, we have stone elements, well, we have stone color palette and feel to complement the warmth of wood. And you know, much like the what you would experience walking on Parksville Beach, and then into the forest areas as well. So this set the tone for how we wanted to get technical with the materiality, but grind it back in the sort of the natural aspects of our surrounding. The more technical resolution of that materiality is illustrated here on the two-dimensional elevations, where we've got wood look material on the lower 4 floors, and then we have a lighter cement board on the top floor, and then the wood look takes on the body of the building. The separation of the 5th floor helps to bring the mass and the scale of the building down to a bit more of a human scale, where the 4 floors is illustrated with the wood tone, and the top floor is lightened up. That top floor also pushes back in floor plan, so the roof decks are bigger, the unit types shift and change, and we have lots of overhangs to create those livable spaces outside. So this is you know, as you arrive to the project, you can sort of see the entryway waiting for you front and center, with its glassy appearance, the opportunity to kind of see activity within the building at that lobby level on each floor. The vertical element of the staircases creates that break in the overall mass and scale of the building, creating almost like communities within the mass of the building itself. The overhangs and the decks creating the strong horizontal feature that separates units from each other, but also creates a kind of a linear feel to the building, giving it that sort of notion of compression down to the ground, as opposed to soaring as a large mass. As we go around the back of the building, there is, from the entryway, there is a corridor that takes you through the lobby and out to the back of the building, which is where the pathway takes you out onto a public space where people can sit and gather and congregate, have community together. It's also the start of the pathway that would connect to the trail, and ultimately the trailhead that would be out onto the highway. So we've created a sort of connective tissue that follows pathways, trails into the building, through the building, and out to the other side. This slide, we want to sort of just touch on the sight lines. We've got some bullet points at the bottom here relating to crime prevention and clear sight lines. You can see here that we've, you know, landscaping is appropriate for creating separation between public and private spaces. We've have got opportunities to change and shift the elevation slightly in order to define those public and private spaces. The pathways around offering lots of circulation for pedestrians, clearly defined as different from the parking lot, and the notion here being lots of eyes on the street, eyes down into the parking lot, creating that sense of safe community, and not having any blind corners where people may have an opportunity to either hide or on the other side of it, make people feel a little unsure of their circulation. And then in support of that safe and secure community, we've located site lighting, which is dark sky compliant, downlight, again, accenting wayfinding for people coming and going to the front of the building, and then out to the back of the building, and certainly around the parking areas as well. And again, just to touch back on Darwin's desire to create community within this building, and how architecture can support that. We've got, I feel we've crafted a building that supports light lightness within buildings, lots of natural airflow, and then we've got the idea of being able to live outside with these deep balconies, and then accessibility, having accessible parking stalls, accessible ramps, and lots of pedestrian access throughout the site. Garwin touched on the energy efficiency component, so I won't go into it much further than we've got bioswales, we're using LED lights and high efficient appliances. There is the intent to install a solar photovoltaic system that would support the corridor, hallway, and house lighting. And we'll see how that performs, and where the future and how that may grow in the future. So I will pass it on to Chris to talk about landscape design. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you to the panel. I'll firstly mention that, okay, my name is Chris Midgley, and my better half, Kate Stefuk, is your colleague on this panel, and so she's not here presenting today. I'm here instead. So picking up on both Glenn and Garwin's comments, one of the things that we noticed initially from a landscape perspective was that creek kind of meandering across the site, and that being redirected as part of a separate project. But that work sort of inspired us to take on how we would approach the planting plan for that sort of environment, and drawing inspiration from that riparian kind of character, and amplifying that in a very lush, layered sort of planting scheme surrounding the whole building, with the intent of moderating the architecture and creating a feeling of experiencing an immersion in nature for those residents who do live here. So that was our driving design concept, a restorative city scenario. What we've done is create relying on an indigenous planting palette, primarily complemented with ornamental grasses and other trees that are more difficult, or that are available as opposed to some of the more indigenous species, to replicate and reflect the natural ecosystems that surround Parksville. In this plan, I'll mention a couple of the key features and elements. They're listed up there on the side, but for the record, to create in one of the final images that Glenn showed you, looking toward the building from the north, you can see a sort of a social gathering space that what we've tried to achieve there is a place for people to gather. It's kind of a flows through the entry and accessing the site, but it's also a social space with a pergola, seating, benching, and a place where you can really observe some of that natural environment within the privacy of your own sort of yard, effectively, for this particular project. So that's sort of a boardwalk, pergola, and trellis area at the sort of the upper right of that drawing that you can see, sort of as number 1 and 2. So there's a connection to beyond as well. As a whimsical kind of element, but also ecologically functional, we are introducing this concept of these bird towers, which would, if hopefully permitted to do this from an ecological perspective, I think we are, but these are intended as perch sites, essentially, for birds to enjoy and people to see birds and enjoy that aspect of nature. They can also introduce, like I said, a bit of a whimsy, some color, and some other features. So amplifying that experience of nature and immersion in nature. You've heard reference to the bioswale as a water conservation measure. So that's central in the parking lot there, under what's shown as number 4 here. And in addition to having a purposeful function to capture and purify rainwater, it also provides an opportunity to amplify some of the ecological experiences that we know in this part of the world, the cyclical summer drought, winter rain, and revealing that seasonality as well. So it's just another added benefit in relation to performance. It's also experiential. Ultimately exposing the natural functioning of the city. This was the image at the outset of the presentation. And you can see in the bottom right, it indicates where we're showing that from the parking lot into the main entry into the building. You can see certain natural features there, in addition to a lush planting, rocks situated within the hardscaping to create more naturalized features. Also, a ribbon of green buffering the private residences from the sort of the public walk and parking area. So creating, again, moderating and grounding the architecture with landscape features and accentuating privacy and access to natural features on this particular site. On the right-hand side of the bottom right here, you can see the plan view. And so on the basically the east side of the parcel, there's one tricky spot. There's an existing retaining wall between the parcel and the existing Wyndham Lodge to the neighboring parcel. There's also a statutory right-of-way for stormwater infrastructure that you can't build anything on. So that there's grade changes, there's elevation changes. So we had to look at ways to create an effective transition between the existing elevations and the proposed building and the adjacent parcel, which I think we resolved in a manner that effectively creates privacy for the parcel and mitigates the appearance of any retaining walls. But it does require higher than permitted walls based on the zoning in too close of a proximity. So they're supposed to be 3 meters apart, but they're less than 3 meters apart. So this is another variance that's being requested for this project. It's basically asking permission for the combined retaining wall and fence to exceed what's permitted by 0.4 meters, 40 centimeters. That's, again, that right-of-way prohibits construction of anything there, so it forces any walls over toward the architecture. But we are permitted to plant in there. So we've selected perennials and shrubs, no trees allowed, but perennials and shrubs to effectively just hide any remaining retaining wall. And we've added planting adjacent to both the retaining wall on the neighboring parcel and adjacent to the proposed architecture, plants that would sort of flow over that edge of the wall and hide it effectively. So from it, all of these sort of walled features are hidden by privacy fences, plantings, and cascading plants over the top. So we've done the best we can in the conditions here to allow for, meeting what we interpret the intent of the bylaws to mitigate, ugly walls effectively, and to instead create something that's visually interesting and effective at realizing the needs of the project. Just basically to wrap up, I described generally the design elements and the design concept being a restorative city scenario. On the left of this page, you can see some of our design precedents for the landscape, showing lush layered plantings of indigenous species, plants that, if they're non-indigenous, at least replicate a naturally or an indigenous species. For example, the paperbark maple, which has bark that's reflective of an arbutus tree, for example. Incorporating natural features into hardscaping on the bottom. You can see a rock integrated into the stairs. That's a sort of a feature that we've included at the front entry, using wood as a warm feature. The boardwalks and overlooks to replicate a natural park sensibility within an urban environment. And sort of ideas for potential bird towers. They will resolve those as we get into more detailed construction design. But again, what you can see is a colorful kind of whimsical element that's intended to, add life and energy to the site. I think that's all for the landscape architecture, and thank you for your time.
So that's it.
There you go.
Thank you. Now we turn that off too. Okay, well, thanks for the detailed and excellent presentation. Much appreciated. So at this point, we'd like to go around the group and see what kind of comments we have, recommendations, and observations. So would anybody from the panel like to start? Christine.
Thank you very much all for your presentation. I have to admit, I'm really impressed by it. My interest is mostly in the landscape part. I'll let everybody else touch on all the other ones, but really impressed with all that you've done and all that you've tried to do. I think we all know what a difference it makes to a building, what a difference it makes to a town when buildings and architecture are well landscaped. And exactly as you said, it makes all the difference. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fort Langley development on the riverfront. They turned an old mill site into just a spectacular development. The architecture is kind of related to the 40s when it was all built there, but they have a bioswale and it's all indigenous plants done incredibly well. And the bird life, the wildlife is just spectacular. And I could see this happening here. Even that little bioswale is not very big, but what a difference it makes when people can hear birds and frogs and all of that at night. And I just, yeah, I was thrilled to see all the indigenous plants in here. I think it's amazing. And no lawn, wonderful. That's my perspective on it. Thank you.
Why don't we go around? Dariush?
Yeah, thank you very much for great presentation, these great projects. Happy to see these good projects happening in here. Few comments I have. First is regarding the entrance of the building. I think entrance is a little bit faded. It's tried to be higher, but it's because it's too much blended with the building is not visible. Its location is great. It's basically draw you that side. But even in this view, if the color changed to similar to the top parapet, little bit darker, and push forward little bit, couple of feet, maybe little bit get more presented and more actually create some more privacy for units right beside it as well, because of that, L shape comes out and give them more privacy to other one. That's very minor recommendation. I don't think so. Do it or not, it's going to be changed much, but that's the one comment. Second, I little bit concerned about the privacy of the units and separation between the decks from one unit to another unit. So with those elements being vertical and open between, is maybe you can do something for privacy, maybe adding some more horizontal in some areas and creating that privacy basically, because there is a bedroom right beside the deck. So I think it's important privacy wise. In material panel, I saw Swiss pearl. Do we using any Swiss pearl in this project, or if it is, where is the location? I didn't see in the elevation.
Yeah, Darish, it's we're using a wood look metal panel, Lux panel, and then on the top floor we're proposing a hardy panel.
Not Swiss pearl.
Swiss pearl is the material on the
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
entrance. All Swiss pearl.
and the top floor is
and there is great material. It's just interested to see where they're gonna use it. Yeah, even a small amount, it's gonna be.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah, it's great to use it at least, even if there is an interest. I do support the two variances proposed. I think those are very minor, and I don't see an issue with that. So that's all about it. Thank you for presentation. Good project.
Thank you, Dariush. Maureen?
Yes, thank you. Good presentation, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I have a lot of questions because I always do. I'm wondering about the disabled parking spaces in the front. I can see that you have the 3 parking spaces there. It's not really an excess of disabled parking spaces. You needed to have 2.5 and you've given me 3, which is great. But I'm considering why there isn't any disabled parking spaces in the underground garage. Because I don't like getting wet any more than anyone else does. So if there was an underground, a couple of spaces down there, if you can increase the number of disabled parking spaces, it's always a good thing. It depends, of course, on who your customer is for the building. Are they going to be rented or are they going to be owned? Owned, and is it a 55 plus building or is there any? No restrictions. And have you considered putting any adapted units into the building at all? Oh, no, well, I don't know.
We will.
Sorry, just Wendy's at her desk taking notes for the meeting. She's doing the minutes. If we could talk into the microphones, that would be great because on the Zoom live stream, we can't hear unless we have a microphone.
Sorry.
Yes, during our pre-sale phase, we will welcome full customization of units for accessibility.
Okay.
We did that with our last development as well.
Mhm.
And we had, out of 29 residences, there was one
Only the one.
that we made some mods to.
Mhm.
Yes.
Will you make that known in your media presentation when you are ready to do this, that people can come in and discuss with you the fact that they could make an adaptable unit there?
We do. Yeah,
Okay.
we covered that off in our marketing.
Good. And my other question about adaptable units is, I'm noticing that you've got a number of units on the first floor. Will any of those units be able to access or egress those units on the main floor without going through the front door?
Only with stairs.
Only with stairs?
Yes.
Okay. And going through the front door, is there only one elevator for this building?
2.
Okay. And one is in the middle and one is?
They're both side by side in the middle as you walk
Okay.
into the entry.
Good. Just a second here. In the as Dariush said, where the door is going in, was there any thought given to extending the canopy in front of the door, if not to the parking area?
I'll let
almost
Glenn
the
speak to
parking area?
that.
Maybe you could tell us how deep it is, Glenn, because that was a question I had too.
Yeah, I think I would need to check, but I believe we're at about a 4 or 5 foot overhang from the glass door. So extending the roof line all the way out to the parking lot.
Or to where the stairs are, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a comment worth consideration. I am conscious that we have, we want to promote as much natural light into the units that are right beside.
Mhm.
And we don't want to make the obstruction so that it's kind of, you know, it's negative to a unit for a limited amount of additional
light.
covering. Yeah,
Mhm.
and you know, I think there is an appropriate balance between providing rain covering at a front door and sort of trying to cover the planet with you know, it's, you know, we live in a rainforest. It's kind of.
I was just thinking if it was brought out, it might make the entrance clearer as you're driving in the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a proponent of a little bit of discovery. I like the idea of kind of finding your way there without it being obviously completely so obscure that you have no idea where you're
Where
going.
it is, right.
We have, I think the architecture speaks to a very strong beacon of light, which signifies, you know, a wayfinding to the front door. When you, if you're arriving by car and you circulate around the landscape, it's going to be pretty obvious that that's kind of, and as Garwin said, the materiality is at that level, at that human entry point, which, and I think the scale is appropriate. Sometimes when canopies get too big, I think, you know, they sort of lose their functionality. And so, but it's definitely a valid comment, and, you know, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
There was also, with your disability parking spaces, are you then, you're not able to, there's not showing any curb cuts. Would there be a curb cut where the parking spaces are so that you don't have to go all the way behind cars to get to the ramp?
Yeah, I think it would be perfectly appropriate to
To
lower the entire curb.
There's
edge
an
at the-
area there where you've got the little Volkswagen that's not really a parking space. It's a little tiny thing beside the disabled parking spaces.
Give me a minute, we'll go back to,
I suppose it's a small car parking space. Are you are you right at the edge of the number of parking spaces you have for the number of units?
yeah, we're meeting the parking requirement,
Have you got anything left over?
very little. Here, so this is the site plan.
Okay, so you see where it says just below the 3 handicap parking spaces, there's that little tiny space there beside it. If you can
Sorry, okay, I've got the pointer.
keep
So
going down and then across to the right, where the spaces are,
Here,
up, there. That space
yeah,
that's beside the 3 parking spaces would be a good place for you to have a ramp going up onto the sidewalk, or a curb cut, whichever you can get in there, so that you have a chance to get onto the sidewalk without having to go all the way around to the ramp.
I believe this is our sidewalk here.
Oh,
with the-
okay.
With
Okay,
curb
I
cut.
didn't see the letdown there, sorry.
Yep,
Okay,
no,
that's
it's
good.
hard to see on the big
Yeah.
screen, but yes, that pathway extends out to receive people coming from
Yeah.
their cars.
Okay. And
There's
can-
also a curb, well, we've got
Over
the ramp
there.
here, we've got the curb cut right here, and
Right,
then the ramp right adjacent that takes you right to the front door.
yeah, that's great. I liked the idea of the ramp, that's great. And it looks like it's cambered right over. What is going on the lot in front of this towards the highway? Do we know? We have no idea at all.
Well, it'll be something that is.
Oh, okay, that was my question. Will you be dealing with that piece? Okay, great. I was good with the variances as well. Sorry, just a sec. I'm a note taker. Looks good. Thank you. Please consider the parking spaces in the garage. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, sorry. If you are putting, which I'm sure you will be putting, an access button at the front door to get into the building. And I'm hoping that you will put one on the other side as well, so that I can also get out of the building.
Yeah, all of through the
Through the building permit,
submission of
I
the
know.
building permit will be
But
following.
if I bring it up now, you can put it on your notes
Oh,
and
it's
it'll get done.
it's paramount to any design these days.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ian.
Can you hear me, everybody? Hi, Glenn. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you. It's a lovely building. It's a little bit concerned about the scale of it because it's quite a heavy mass in that area. But some of the other things that have already been mentioned is of kind of great importance to me and it's very significant, and it may affect the overall design. The front entrance is really troubling me. And I know you said you wanted it slightly hidden or something, but it really is hidden as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really important for buildings when you turn into a building site and you arrive, you're looking for an arrival point, and where the entrance is located, it's great for the building, and I think there's nothing wrong with the location, but it certainly takes on a very subdued character based on the overall tones of the whole building. As far as I'm concerned, it's very obscured and quite hidden, and it's a little bit of a mystery when you're faced with the building scale of that size to actually recognize where you're heading to. And I know that you've made an attempt. I can see on the monitor here because it's difficult to be speaking. I'm looking that way. Sorry, I need two heads. So I agree with Maureen in talking about some extra cover up the front. It does rain in this country, and I think we should be having a little bit more effort to protect the entryway. And it doesn't mean that we need to actually pull that design element all the way out to the front, but there are good design, simple design features that can be made out of steel and glass that are very simple and would not obscure views or hide anything. They don't have to be covered on all around. So there are ways of handling that quite easily. The other thing that also troubles me is that at the front entry where we have those steps, 3 steps, I think there are a visual barrier. And I know we've got a ramp, but we also have a lot of space on this project. It's not constricted as some of the other sites that I know about, even things that we have to deal with. But you have the same amount of space at the front of the building that there is existing for the ramp. So why could not the front entry be a continuously wide, very gentle ramp, because you have the space to do it? That would make that entrance a lot more inviting instead of visually creating a barrier, a visual barrier. It's because it is a long diversion if you parked in a handicap space to find the ramp. It doesn't address that entry welcoming proposition for the whole building. So I would suggest that you take a look at how you handle the front entrance, because the rest of the building is very powerful. You have a lot of dark or semi-dark, medium tones for the entire building, with white features coming out which extend out from the building. Very strong statement, and yet the front entrance is very subdued and receding in terms, visually receding. For people with visual deficiencies, it's not easy on them. And I'm not sure what would happen at nighttime in that area, how one would view the act of getting into a building of this scale and size, because all of those rooms will have lights in them, and you have a lot of white features. And to find out, I know we have a glass wall behind the entryway, but I think there needs to be some more attention given to the way that presents itself at nighttime and so on. The other couple of things that worry me a little bit is I'm not sure what materials you're using on the roof. When I look at the description, it says some sort of roofing membrane or something. The dark brown lid that you have on the building, what exactly is that?
Our fascia material?
Yes, it's not clear from the descriptions what it is.
glasses up.
Number one, I guess. So three.
Medium gray tones.
Yeah, so the high roof fish is fiber cement panel siding.
Sorry, what exactly is the material?
The fiber cement panel is the
Oh, okay,
fascia material.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, that's
because we
fine.
have deep overhangs.
Yeah,
And then we have a low slope membrane roof,
sure. Okay,
which isn't visible.
I thought for some reason, just the way it was written, that the membrane was also the fascia.
No, no.
Okay, I was just gonna say, well, we should look at that. The other thing that also concerns me a little bit in terms of the overall life of the building is that you have white stucco walls on all of the front areas where the decks are. And I'm just wondering whether stucco, I don't mind the color, but whether stucco would be the right choice of material for that, because stucco gets quite dirty, and if it's handling a lot of rain and water, because you have glass walls right above it, they will be diverting a lot of water onto those walls. So I'm just wondering what would happen to that after 3 years, for instance. What would it look like? Some of the other materials you use on the building are absolutely perfect, and there's nothing wrong with them. So I would just draw that to your attention.
Balcony fascia that he's talking about?
The white-
Yeah, so there's the vertical upstand of the balcony, which is stucco, and then we have the lower part of that balcony, which is the rainwater would then be shedding off of that. So it's sort of a two-part balcony detail with a parapet, and the parapet's is the stucco with the cap flashing
Yeah.
on.
It's just a question, it's not the question of the color or the appearance, it's just a question of
It's
the
durability.
choice of materials. That's all, I mean, you're using a lot of fiber panels already, so, or any of the other materials would work adequately. I'm just concerned about stucco as a finish.
Mhm.
There was something else, yes. This is a landscaping item. You have some walls on that sloping area between Wyndham and your property. And there are some fences there that you explained, but I'm not 100% sure why we need the fences at all. Because you've got such a very nice garden area on the slope, and you're actually hiding it from the neighbors. And is it a security item, the fences? Does it need to be that secure? You have a cliff on one end, people are not gonna, you have to protect people from falling into their property. They should be doing that. If that wall is on their property, they should have kind of a rail on the top. But apart from that, I don't know how you would get up onto that spot if it was a security item. The security could be contained on either end of it probably, but I think it's a shame to hide all that nice landscaping. And I'm not sure what's going to happen when the sun doesn't get at some of your plants, So if you could explain the rationale behind that particular fence.
Will do, absolutely. Thank you. Typically, in a great deal, as a matter of practice, we end up putting privacy fences around many of our development projects. That's typically a security issue, a privacy concern. So that is typically the rationale. We made no comment on the existing retaining wall as it's not on this parcel.
Yeah.
All we've done for that is to contribute a small strip of planting that might further conceal it.
Yeah.
The necessity of it, I think that's a matter of discussion between Garwin, Glenn, and ourselves to decide if it's not necessary. But typically, we do try to encourage or provide a little bit of privacy and security. There's a lot of reasons for that we're all quite aware of. But that's generally the rationale for it. In terms of shading, that's less of a concern in my opinion, because we will select plants there that will thrive in a partially shaded environment. So that's a legitimate but a lesser concern that we can manage as well.
It's just that where the residents would be sitting or using in terms of their patios is much higher than the slope. So privacy wise, I'm not sure that it's helping that at all.
Right. I mean, and the security dimension of it is a real factor as well. But there is some truth to the fact that there is an elevation change. There will be plant matter that's further concealing everything that it truthfully will not be visible from adjacent parcels. But again, that was primarily driven by a security rationale just to provide a contained site for the residents here. And I can speak to the security element. Yeah, please.
I know this site well because we spend a lot of time dealing with vandalism, trespassing. And I can tell you, you could drive by and have a look at the retaining wall on the Travel Lodge side. It's plastered with graffiti. There is a guardrail there, but it's constantly scaled and people walk over it. There's an embankment on the south side of their parking lot that gets you up to the retaining wall. And for us, security is going to be a really big issue. It is on that site. People just gravitate to it because it's a park. And the city, as well as us, has dealt with a lot of issues over the years. So the fence is paramount for security.
Mm-hmm. Well, I totally understand the security aspect, but it's a shame to hide all the landscaping and also the fence is not providing any visual privacy for the people, the residents.
Understood. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And for us, it really isn't about privacy. It's about security.
Right.
Because people will come over that wall and it'll be a problem if we don't have a bigger barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate and you have a valid point, and it's nice to hear that Chris is saying the plants will still be okay with, the shaded area of the fence.
I just wonder whether a more transparent fence would help. It's something to consider, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, I think I've covered a few of the points. I'll let Mary.
Thank you. I feel a little bit out of my element, but nonetheless, I would like to say what a treat it is to see that creek of sorts daylighted. And I'm a real fan of linear parks, having had the benefit of living in Ottawa for a number of years, where there's some really fantastic examples of linear parks. So even small linear parks, I think, can add so much to people's mental health and well-being, and allow for connections across from one part of a neighborhood or the city to another, and in fact increase active transportation, because people don't have to go around a whole block in order to get to some place that they're going. So I see that as a really nice to see. And I understand through bits that I've heard over times that you've had to do a lot of work with the mapping and relocating, and some of that having more to do with provincial levels than the local level. So thank you for persevering with that. I did have, and I want to thank especially Maureen for asking the question about that neighboring property, because I was wondering about that as well. And if you were planning with that in mind, and I was thinking about the pergola area, that little common area, noticing that it is on a corner, and wondering if that was somewhat thinking about future development on the neighboring property, and that that hopefully it would not negatively impact future residents in this particular property. If I may, you know, as a layperson here, as far as that entrance, I think the fact that you've got the two buildings kind of leading to a V would naturally, one would think, well, we're going towards the V. There are the two vertical elements, so that, which again, you know, I'd be looking for the vertical element, but I just, for me, I just think, well, it's going to be at the middle there. So I don't see that as big a problem. Again, speaking totally as a layperson, and also that landscaping can do so much to help with that wayfinding and the direction, even with colors of plants or you know, in shapes and so on that lead people there. I really appreciate hearing the comments from everyone, both about materials and colors and everything else. I do have two questions. One is, what I'm not seeing anywhere here is what the neighboring residents over at, I think it's at the Meadows, is it the Meadows next door? Now that's and so it is, I was happy to see that is, of course, a narrow end of the building, but I wasn't clear as to, you know, what those neighbors would have facing them. I appreciate that the positioning of the buildings is such that although it is a 5-story right next to them, that there are plans for trees, and that it also is the narrow end of the building. So I just didn't see that anywhere. So I was curious as to, you know, how massive that would be or not for those neighbors.
One of the issues that we considered in siting the building was exactly that. What can we do to minimize the impact for the Meadows, which is one level? So we masked the building on the north side of Lot B. And the entrance to the Rowan Avenue cul-de-sac is basically the surface parking for visitors, and the building is pushed back to the north side.
And one thing that the folks living there may find, in fact, will find that although it'll be a big adjustment, it will in fact block a lot of the noise from 19A, and they may find that it's much quieter than without the building there. I also wondered, it was nice to hear, I gather these will be homes for sale. These will be for sale for market. Is there any chance that there is a plan for any of these units to be affordable?
Well, I can't speak to affordability. I think that's like subjective. I will tell you that in my experience in Parksville, the developments that we've done, there are always people that buy units and they buy them to rent. And so there will likely be some units in this building that owners will rent out and put into the rental market.
Thank you. And I don't think I really have anything else to add to this. Thank you again.
So I just wanted to say, very nice looking building. It exudes quality, which is really nice when you're driving around town and seeing a high quality building. So I really appreciate that. I like the way you cited it, because being away from the 1-story residence next door and to the north of it means that we get a lot of south sun in the winter here, and they're still going to get that. So I would applaud that. I too support the variance. I think a few of us have spoken about the overhang protection, and I just wondered if perhaps you could extend the roof part of that without bringing the wall out. Talk to your structural engineer. But I appreciate not making a compartment next to a unit. I wouldn't want that unit if you brought that wall out. So I think we've all kind of said much the same, a little more rain protection. It really looks nice when it's high, but we know the winds that come in, especially from the northeast, could drive right into that. So that the more you can get without ruining the whole concept, which looks really nice right now, the better. The height of the retaining wall of the ramp, just wondered if that's basically, 42 or 48 inch high upstand wall next to that ramp. Maybe you could just clarify that. I assume it's whatever you need just for protection falling into the ramp, and it won't go any higher than that. Yeah, the color palette is nice being next to a nature park. I'm glad that it's not over the top with colors and things. I think it's very natural. Quite like that. Had a question about the creek rerouting. There's a couple of 90-degree corners in that creek now. It used to run diagonally across. I don't know what kind of flow there is in that creek, but a lot of similar situations, that's the first place to go is when you get a high flow, right? You need to armor those corners. I just wondered if some thought had been given to that. With the entrance identification, that nice band that you've got across the top, I wonder if you had plans to put either an address number 440 or the word Rowan or something on it that would start to nail down. I think it's quite obvious that it's an entrance myself, but I'm sure you'll want to identify it in another way, and just some really tasteful signage there might be the last item you need to make it sure for everybody that's the entrance. And really that's kind of all I had to say. Commend you for staying below the 18-meter limit for the site. We've had a lot of requests for height variances in a lot of our projects, and you managed to get this in quite nicely under the 18 meters. So I think that Ian has got a couple of extra points here.
Yes, thank you. The whole site development presumes that everybody's arriving by car, because I haven't seen any. How do we get people that are not in an automobile visiting the site, and how do we get people from the site to be able to walk out of the site without creating issues? Because it looks like everybody's going to be sharing the road at the entrance point. It's quite congested. You have 3 sets of traffic happening there. One set going and coming to the ramp, one set going into the right-hand side of the parking lot, another set coming from the parking lot, and everybody's meeting at that point, and you have a circular road out at the front. So how do pedestrians or somebody in a walker or somebody in a wheelchair, how do they escape from the site?
Sorry, I'm just flipping to the, so we have, Rowan is a public road, and there is, there will be some works and services that probably need to be done through the development, I would imagine, including sidewalk and various, but that is the frontage of this property. We have a front yard setback, which is that little crescent moon.
Right.
We do have a, we have expressed the notion of being able to walk out through the to the other side of the building, and that will connect to the trail pathway that is going to join the linear park and extend to the trailhead that meets on Island Highway. So if you're walking or if you're on a bike, that would be maybe an opportunity to access the site that way. The cars will be coming from Rowan. There is a driveway down into the parking lot, and I think it's just a matter of we have landscaped the parking lot as best as we can with the space that's provided. The notion is that calming traffic is the best way to kind of control access to and from, and the sort of the level of shareability that entry will have with other modes of transportation. So, we expect that cars will enter, turn down into the parkade, or loop in and drop a friend off or drop somebody off and do a turn. It's very hard to anticipate or even conceptualize the notion that there would be an accessible or a sort of an excess of traffic accessing the site at any one given time. It is a challenge, and I understand what you're saying. But we have created sidewalks around the perimeter of the building so that when you park your car on the surface parking, it's there is an opportunity to, as conveniently as we can possibly make it, get to a sidewalk, which is along the edge of the building, as opposed to leaving people to their own devices to kind of navigate a sort of a free-for-all asphalt parking lot. So we have created sidewalks where we can, and but I understand that yes, there may be a point of congestion. We would fully expect that the sidewalk that extends around the driving bulb at the end of Rowan, it will be integrated with let down for the driveway and so on.
Yeah, I know that you've done a great job with at the ground level inside the site, but I think it's that interface between the public road and how do you get into the site or leave the site if you're a pedestrian. The other way out of the site, of course, is not really accessible for anybody, and who's not able. So I wouldn't call it accessible at all. It's a route out, but I'm talking about the more casual people who are just trying to get out into the neighborhood. And I think some form of pedestrian accessibility should be considered of how you leave and enter the site. That's all, because I'm presuming that when the road goes in, there will have to be provisions for pedestrians.
Mhm.
I mean, there's some sort of sidewalk issue. So it would be a question of finding out what that is and coordinating that. But I think it's really important.
I can comment a little bit on that. I don't
Sure.
know the particulars offhand, but this site did go through a zoning amendment process a few years ago. And as part of that, there are frontage improvement works that have been secured with the engineering department. I don't believe the works have been done yet, but it is the intention that those will be happening. And then as far as Tony's comment about the storm channel, that was all considered by council and approved through a separate development permit. That's why that area right now is just indicated as white. So council previously considered that. There were, I believe, biologists involved and a provincial approval as well. So that's all been investigated, and they are doing extensive plantings in that channel as well.
Just to suggest something to Ian's comment, you got this little bulb of landscaping on the cul-de-sac here. And I wonder if you just rearrange the trees a bit, if you could run a path through there so that instead of walking through the driveway to the building, you could just thread a path out onto the cul-de-sac through those trees. That way you wouldn't be walking in an area where there might be coming and going. I appreciate it's not exactly a huge traffic jam, but a path for, just to the street with even a sign, path to the street, so you don't have to walk through a driveway. I think that would be great.
Yep.
Especially in winter when there's snow.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I may, it would almost be a good thing for somebody to maybe want to walk beside the planting on the west side where all your planting is there. If you could come off that edge of the building.
Yep.
And come down there, you would be getting onto the road without having to cross over where the bulb is. Or something beside where the ramp goes down, where you have your planting beside the ramp. You could bring that sidewalk all the way along there, but that way you're still going to have to cross the bulb. If you bring it down the other way, you wouldn't have to cross the bulb at all. You would be able to get right onto the Rowan part sidewalk.
Okay. Anything else from anybody?
I just have one question. Is there any step code considered for this project?
Step code?
step codes, yeah, more than what BC building code require.
City of Parksville has adopted a level of step code, is that correct?
I believe currently it's step code 3 is, or 2, sorry, is the
Okay.
requirement.
Yeah, so I can't speak for the developer on that. If you wanna- Darren, do you want to mention anything about that? I think we're currently chasing energy efficiency that's practical for the building. I don't think we would be exceeding step code. But I don't know if is that a kind of,
My comment is that step 2 is basically you're calculating to show that you're meeting BC building code. But since like 5-6 years, all the industry have lots of experience, and step 3 code is not the big step. It will be very easy to achieve with the same standard construction we do every day, and it's gonna be good selling point. 25% energy efficient, better than the BC building code. So all we have to make sure, just few details. I'm not suggesting you committed for this, but
Yeah.
targeting that is a good practice.
yeah, I do know that Darwin, as a developer and builder, is committed to high efficiency systems for sure. And I think that was expressed at the start of the presentation. Thanks.
I would support Dariush's comments. I do know that all of us who sit around the council table really notice that. I notice that, you know, and certainly people who are coming forward with presentations, that it is a strong selling point.
So I think just for the record, I don't know that we can recommend that, but I think informally here, we can just present that to the builder and leave it at that.
Could I just make one more comment? During your presentation, you indicated that there was a city connection, which is great. You're not very far away from the Island Highway to go into the city. But I would not be able to get out of this building and go up to the Island Highway to catch a bus. I would have to go all the way down to Rowan and all the way around and all the way back up again to catch a bus. And I can't get up those stairs. Surprise.
Again, I don't know if that's the builder issue here, though. That path is, maybe you could comment there, Sarah, but that
Yeah.
path.
Offhand, I can't recall. That would have been covered in part of the development permit. So there was previously a development permit issued a few years ago, and it looked at the design. There was a pedestrian pathway following the new channel. Once it's relocated, I believe that the land is going to be part of the city park system.
Okay.
So there are some plans. I just have to go back to my desk and find them, but I'm happy to email them to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, we would normally summarize from all the comments and observations we've made, some recommendations. I guess first off, let's summarize those points first and what parts of the development area 3 verbiage here they referred to. So I think there's been pretty much unanimous agreement. We'd like to see some more weather protection at the entry. Without being specific about it, I think we've thrown out a number of ideas. So to extend the canopy protection at the front entry, and I think that is item 1F, if I'm not mistaken, which is building entrances should be designed to provide weather protection. Dariush, I think you raised the privacy between units, and so again, without being prescriptive, I think we would say to give that consideration, additional balcony protection between units. And I would see that a bit generally as being item 1A, which is just the building expression, adjacencies, and so on. So that one seems to have been there as well. By the way, I think we all supported the variances. We should note that as well. Additional disabled parking, there's none underground, so I think there'd probably be some general agreement that weather protected disabled parking would be nice to add, maybe a couple of spaces. So Ian had raised the matter of the front entrance stairs. Again, I don't think we should be prescriptive about that, but maybe to improve access and to see if there's a possibility of removing the stairs. I had a little question about that too. Is there a need for a small handrail next to that stair if it stays in? Okay. So I think that's kind of an access issue. I would say 6A. There's a recommendation to consider the stucco on the balcony upstands. I think that's legitimate, that perhaps a legitimate or an alternate material could be considered. Such a beautiful building, it would be kind of awful if it did discolor. Not a bad point. So I'd have to call that 1A again. And I guess the only other one is to review the form of the fence between this building and the adjacent travel lodge. And I guess the transparency of that fence. I don't think there's any argument that it's needed for site security. I think those of us who live here know that there can be some pretty rough characters in that area. So 2G, Sarah, would you have a look at that? I'm not sure. I guess the hotel could be considered a residential district. So that's what I discerned from what I heard, but tell me if I missed anything.
Yes.
Yeah, please, Mary.
Great segue, Tony. I'm not sure that you mentioned the looking at the pedestrian access off Rowan
Oh,
Road.
yes,
Did you
sorry,
mention
thank
that?
you. Yeah, it was the last thing we talked about too.
And again, probably without being too prescriptive,
Yeah.
because we all know that pedestrians often ignore what all the money and design that's been put into creating something. But if
Yeah.
at least there was something to encourage them not to be walking back and forth in front of that ramp down into the
Yeah, I agree
underground, that would
totally.
be great.
So, yeah, recommendation for a path directly to the cul-de-sac, not through the driveway. And
Pedestrian accessibility.
yeah, did you already find the clause? Pedestrian routes to and from parking areas should be accentuated by landscaping and provide, that doesn't really do it. Yes. Go for that one. And
There was the item of additional handicap parking spaces.
I did
and
that.
You did that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
so basically, I guess for DP with variance accepted as presented with recommendations. Would we call this a request for additional information, or would we just go with 2 additional information? So we would then request some additional information with the points we've raised today. And otherwise, I detected high level of approval for the project. And I think these are some small things that'll just work out some kinks. Yep, so if we're good with that,
Would like to move the, basically, I wanted to move the move the forward for approving with these comments.
can you pull the mic down a little bit, Darius? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on. I wanted to move the forward, basically application for approval.
Yep.
With the
So moved by
recommendation.
Darius, somebody to second that? Excellent. And I guess we need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Ian, seconded. Darius. Thank you very much. Look forward to that piece of property being developed. I've lived here a long time looking at that. Drive by it every day. So it'd be really nice to see the project. Were you here last week?
What's that?
Were you here last time?
Yes,
The gas station?
yes.
So
Oh,
Tony?
it was that.
Can I just ask you to sign the minutes from last time?
yes. I'll put 4.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we have lots to say.
Oh, I s-
I mean, I have to be very sensitive about the accessibility. And right now, because I'm doing accessibility course.
Yeah.
From the Recasting Institute, not institute, but foundation.
Yeah, foundation, yeah.